you for about 25 minutes.
Okay.
So first thing I want to say is that you look wonderful.
Should I put the mask on?
No, keep the mask off. So when we're ready to get serious, Jennifer's going to say her little spill.
All right.
I think, spill, whatever it is. It's about mouthwash or something.
Okay, no, we are live on YouTube, my friends.
Okay.
It is happening. Okay, so I have to mute my laptop because I don't want to hear us twice. Once is enough. Okay, so hello and welcome to the Complex Couple Podcast. We have a very special guest today, my dear, dear, dear friend, Ken Tsoulas. And before we jump into the podcast, I have to also announce we have a sponsor. We have our sponsor for our podcast. So we are currently sponsored by a company called Outmarket.pro. And this is a marketing company. And the way I got connected to them is actually through Keith. Keith met the principal, Mark Stein, at a dog park in Florida, maybe 6 months ago. That's a guess. And since then, Mark and I have been working together to help promote my business, my coaching practice. And right now he has a special happening where he is offering QuickBooks bookkeeping for the low, low price of $24.95 per hour, which is a bargain. So if you are interested in some bookkeeping support, I suggest you contact Mark for a discovery session. And his email address is mark@outmarket.pro. I love Mark. He's just so sincere and so authentic, and I adore him. So I'm very excited that he is sponsoring us.
Yeah, okay. Super nice guy.
Yep.
That's all
I can say. You've met him.
Well,
I haven't met him face to face. I've only talked to him on the phone.
I was walking my dog at the dog park, met this guy, and I knew immediately that he was, a very easygoing guy, and that was it. We talked, and before you know it, we shared some information, and he was an entrepreneur and very smart guy, and he's a very honest guy. So yeah, I'm glad that Jennifer was able to kind of link up with him and make some connections. So, yeah. All right.
Awesome. Okay, so now let's dig into the podcast. Our guest just walked away.
Oh, just for a minute. I got to get my rocking chair. Us old people, we need rocking chairs. We don't need sitting on hassocks after.
I'm sitting on a milk crate in the basement. I know what you're talking about.
You're not on the deluxe program then.
Ken is a dear, dear, dear friend of mine. I have known, Ken, I don't even know how many years I've known you. But the connection is hilarious because you
were pregnant.
Used to date.
Before you were pregnant. That's
way before I was pregnant. You used to date my ex-husband's sister.
That was 1989.
For real?
1989.
Wow. Right. And so when I was married, I met you through my ex-husband because the two of you were friends.
Yes.
And I've known you ever since.
And I've loved you to pieces ever since.
I know. Me too. Me too.
Your husband's pretty cute too.
He is cute, isn't he? You gotta
look like I'm 12
down though, so we can.
I'm done. I'm done with the peanuts.
Okay. All right. I have no idea where this podcast episode is going. I'm actually going to turn it over to Keith. I'm not sure why, and see what unfolds here.
Because you're foolish.
I know. You two have met. Right. You two are cut from the same cloth, and I think are some kind of kindred spirits, as we all are, as Ken and I are as well.
All right, so I'm ready. Now I don't have any notes written down, folks. This is just shooting from the hip. Ken and I have met a few times, and we kind of get along really well. There's some spiritual shit going on between us. So my first question for Ken is, tell us where you're born, real fast, a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into the shit that just.
Okay, but high level. We don't want 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
Easy.
Yep.
Okay.
I was born on a dark and cloudy night at 9:15 p.m. in Eastern Maine Medical Center in Bangor, Maine. I was number 3 of 6 children, and I was fortunate enough to have evolved as the middle child, the rebel, and have been the rebel my entire life. How's that for short?
Ooh, I've never heard you answer something so short and concisely in my entire
Mhm.
life.
It's great, Ken.
Good job.
Next question. How many times have you been married now, Ken?
In my mind or in reality?
In reality.
If you ask me how many times I proposed to women, I would not be able to answer the question. However, I've been married twice and been
Twice.
tempted a number of times, but I have officially retired my proposal apparatus. I have an extensive collection of ex-wives that I stopped at 2. It's a very expensive collection, and it's one that I no longer believe in adding any to.
So wait, you said you've had 2 legal marriages. How many in your mind? I want to know the answer to that question.
Oh, I thought about marrying a bunch of women, but oh my God, thank God it was just a fleeting thought and not a serious idea that went into action, because action would have been disastrous.
All right. Are we ready for the next question?
I think
Yes.
so.
All right. So the next question, Ken, what is the number one thing you like about men and the number one thing you like about women?
The number one thing I like about men, I wish you had asked me what I don't like about them, because this.
Oh, that's coming up next.
Oh,
This is the first phase.
Number one thing I like about men is the
Wow, it's a short list. You can't even come up with one.
Well, I mean, I could say things like, we all have penises, but that's not really I mean, we all like our penises. That's part of the program, but that's not the number one thing I would have to say is that sometimes we have an ability to persevere in difficult situations based on the male brain never say die, never give up factor until we learn from the situation.
Okay. And women, what's the number one thing you like about women?
Oh my!
Can't say vagina.
No.
Vagina's off the table.
China's not even on the table.
Mm.
Women are the spirit of the earth. They're the creative spirit of love and nurturing and joy and love. The female element teaches men how to love, because we're just kind of, from the quote social programming, we're kind of dumbasses. I was kind of raised that way. I didn't know what love was. I thought that, that it had something to do with sex, and that, if you had sex, that there was going to be some kind of love, but they really don't have anything to do with each other at all until you really love somebody. And then it doesn't become sex. It becomes something else. It becomes a connection. It becomes an expression of love.
That was
So with that,
beautiful.
yeah,
I'm
very nice.
impressed.
Now moving on to the nitty gritty, because we're on a time kind of constraint here. What is the number one thing you don't like about men and the number one thing you don't like about women?
The number one thing I don't like about men is their aggressive, stupid behavior. They lead with their teeth. They don't stop and think a lot of times. They act way too impulsively, and they react from a level that is just it's so primal. It's like they have this natural aggression that goes with the extra chromosome that is just, you have to wait a long time to get over that. Maybe you spend a lot of time getting in fights trying to figure out what that is as a kid. I mean, I fought my way home from school just about every day from primary school, right up through. And it was a survival thing. And I did it, and it wasn't like other boys really knew how to talk either. We were just duking it out off the playground all the way home.
That's so funny because Keith just tonight was telling my mom and I about a getting beat up story on his way home from school.
Mm-hmm.
I got beat up and beat up kids so many times on my way home from school. My brother used to beat the shit out of me and tease me, and my parents were totally inept. So they were basically useless and had no parenting skills because they were products of their parenting, which kind of, I don't know if it existed, but they were way too busy. But at any rate, I think that's a really difficult thing. I think that for men to become a gentle, loving, and compassionate and understanding individual is a really noteworthy goal. And that implies embracing so many things that in terms of the defined socializing characteristics we learn from an early age are so contrary to finding that really human center that isn't part of the stereotypical programming that I think we get. So I think that's my answer.
So Ken, how long do you think it took you to learn that?
Let me see. Last week.
And you are how old?
65. In all seriousness, I think I learned that somewhere. I started learning about it in high school. And then I realized that probably the fact that I lived long enough to survive and not die so many times I cheated death. And a few of those times were in confrontations that were physical with other men. But I realized that wasn't the way, probably in my mid to late 20s. When I started really, at 21, I started embracing a spiritual path on a very, very serious level that has carried me through my entire life. So, yeah, I would say that at that point, I haven't really felt the need to want to beat the living snot out of anybody except for maybe Trump. And I can't do that because I'd get arrested. So
maybe. Just
maybe they'd make me a national.
All right. Keith, what's your next question?
Well, going to women now. What do you least like about women?
The agenda planning. Always got a hidden agenda. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Hidden agendas. Always got a plan. They're the nest builders, the featherers of the nest. They're the home, and it's a wonderful thing because we're wild. You know, evolutionary biology says we can plant seeds till the day we die. They got a limited number of time frame that they can feather that nest. Pick the right dude to make that happen. Someone that's secure.
There's
gonna be, who are beyond that.
Yeah, there's some women that's going to come on the site and say, "Fuck you."
I know. I might be one of them. I'm like, what?
I said evolutionary biology. I didn't say that's necessarily the case, but you asked me the number one thing. I made some, in all fairness to every woman that I've ever loved and still love, I think that they make choices based on laws of attraction and laws of kind of suitability. And then they look at you, and once you're hooked, it's like an old house. They want to make the carpet. They want to redo the floor. They want you to stop smoking. That you drink too much.
I hear ya.
You know, You pick your nose. You can't pick your nose when you're with a woman because God knows, then you're done. Then you're just a gross, stupid bastard. Even though, I'll let you know a little secret, women probably pick their nose sometimes too, but they were much more clever. Women are way
Yeah,
more.
we're way more clever. We're not going to show you
You wouldn't
us
even
picking our nose. Like, absolutely not.
This is very transparent. I'm digging it, Ken.
That's why we
I'm
don't fart
digging
out
it.
loud either.
That's
You
right.
farted out loud a couple nights ago, Jennifer. Yeah.
We're proud of our parts. It's part of that
I know.
reptilian brain that it's a joy factor. You lift a cheek. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Down to the nitty gritty. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. It's gonna be a lot of thumbs down on this video.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that was it. Listen, we got to stay on the. So the
Okay,
next
so what
question.
I think you're saying, wait, before we move on,
Okay.
you're saying that women want to change men. Is that the subtext I'm hearing?
I think that it's kind of that, okay, sitting in a therapist's office, and I said to my therapist, so Mark, tell me, why is it that you fall in love and you have this mad, passionate, wonderful romance with a woman, and you think this is going to last forever because you're a man? Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not that you're a man, but maybe it's that you're passionate and you hold that dear, and the honeymoon kind of fades, and the next thing you know, the passion kind of goes away, and you want it to stay, and it doesn't. And he said, he looks at me in all seriousness. He's been a therapist for, I don't know, 40 plus years. And he says, 70% of marriages and not just marriages, but relationships suck. And people aren't happy. They tend not to really care about sex and passion, and they settle for a lot less. And then the other 30% are the really growth-focused, nurturing, loving relationships. I thought, 70%? Yeah. So I experienced a few of those, and I'm not interested anymore.
You're interested in no relationships? Is that what you're saying?
You can't have passion in your life. Fuck it. What's the point?
Well, I gotta interject some, because I have had this conversation with a few people, older people, younger people, whatever. But intimacy and passion can change with time.
Yes.
Right. So, but it depends. Does it change into something that you actually enjoy? Right. Because what's the first thing we do when we don't enjoy something? We bitch about it. We don't want to accept it. So I've got a new technique. I call it the praying technique, and I'll leave it at that. Never really mess with it, but it's something new.
Praying?
Yep. Praying. That's all I'm going to say. But this was something that I never really thought much about, right? But it's turned into a bigger thing for me. Now, it's not quite what I'm used to, but what's the old saying? Adapt or die, right? And that's kind of how I live my life. So for me, like, if you get to a point where things aren't interesting anymore, you've got two choices. Hopefully you have a partner that's willing to go to a new place, right? It's kind of like, do we want to eat at the same restaurant every night? Hell no, we don't. We want to go downtown and we go to that little hillbilly place and get some barbecue, right? So I get what you're saying, but for me, like, there's a part of me that agrees with you, Ken, but I think if you have the right person, right?
Absolutely.
Right. But that's the key, because if you don't have the right person, it really doesn't matter what you do, you're fucked.
All bets are off. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have learned, the number one lesson in life and relationships is, I have learned that most of the time your initial attractions can be persuaded far too much by what you see in front of you and not what you know from your heart.
I agree. I agree.
You don't lead with your heart and you don't take the time to understand, you could jump in the sack and have great sex and have an absolutely horrible relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you could meet somebody that you're not attracted to and get to know and find out that you love this person in so many ways that were not even possible. And it's about taking the time to, like anything, when you invest in someone and you invest in their heart and you show yours, then you get to build something. And I think that that's really, really important. I think I've spent, I've made, in my 65 years on this planet, I've made bad choices, but every choice that I've made, it's not that I beat myself up for it, but I do believe that I've learned a great deal from each of those choices, because this is just a training ground for us spiritually. And each choice that we make only gives us the opportunity to move forward and take another step spiritually. So, yeah, I mean, I laugh at the number one principle in operating and thinking about relationships for me is really learning to laugh at myself and my motivations, and to look at what's really in front of me and really truly appreciate what that is. And that basically, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I always maintained from the time I was a kid, or actually from the time I was a young adult and went through hell, actually with your ex-husband's sister. When I came out of that and got raked over the coals and had my heart broken and went, oh God, oh no, she tore up my heart and stomped on it. I came to two very, very simple, and I think they are ultimately the truth for all of us, conclusions. And that is, there are only really two relationships that you really, truly need to maintain in your life. And one is the relationship you have with your heart and yourself and your true self. And the other one is the relationship that you maintain with God. And if you work on those in conscious contact with whatever that happens to be, then life will give you many opportunities to move in the right directions with the people that you love.
I think that's true. And I want to circle back to a couple of points that you made. One, that you said you've made a lot of mistakes. Like, oh, you're human, because we all make a lot of freaking mistakes. Welcome to the club.
Fake cred going on here.
And then the other comment that you made from your therapist is this 70-30 split between unhappy and happy couples. And the 30% are those couples who are willing to make the investment in the relationship. And I think that perhaps the reason why that percentage is so small is because it takes two people to invest in that relationship. If one person is willing and one person isn't, you're going to head over to the 70%.
Yeah, you're lost. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah. And that's so hard. And I know this from my own pain, as you know.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't matter how hard you try. If the other person isn't interested, you might as well just like walk away. Anyway, I just wanted to offer that.
It's a very, very true part of it. Sometimes you can sit there and go into the if only scenario, where if only I do this, if only I do this, she's going to love me more, he's going to love me more. If only if I do this, if I
did a lot of that.
less, if I do the dishes more, if I make fantastic meals, if I clean the car, if I walk the dog, God, if I burp less and fart less, then she'll love me more. If only. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. If you don't have truly wonderful heart-to-heart communication enough of the time, and both parties, like you say, aren't willing, you give it up. Give it up. It ain't gonna go where you want it to. That's why I'm really happy with the woman I'm with.
So you're in a relationship now.
I am. Yes.
You want to tell us more? Like, what's that like compared to other relationships you've had? What's
Well,
different?
um, she's darling. She's got a beautiful heart. She's a yogi. Um, she's very creative, very nurturing. She's got 3 grandchildren, and they're wonderful, beautiful. And I one of the things that I admire probably the most and realize that, I can't tell you how many lifetimes I've been a woman, but there've been a lot. And watching a woman nurture their children and nurture their grandchildren when they've had a lifetime of experience raising children is like this most amazing, beautiful, beautiful thing. And she has one that's close and 2 that are in other parts of the country, granddaughter, that I am absolutely, totally, and completely in love with. I give her my wallet, my car, my house. She's 3. She's absolutely very articulate, amazing, and it's that essential element of spirit that when you connect with a child, and whether you're a Christian or a Buddhist, or you become like a child, and when you see the world through a child's eyes and a child's joy, and when you're with somebody that is able to foster and make that joy be so present, then it's absolutely amazing. And when you become childlike in your play with your partner, it becomes truly amazing. So learning to laugh, my friend, she's absolutely darling. I can't tell you, I love her immensely. She's just a beautiful woman, and she's got this gorgeous heart, and she's always checking me. She tells me that I should always say excuse me when I burp, and that I swear too much. She's got a little bit. I tell her that she's a suffering Catholic still, and she's not fast enough in the recovery mode. But I laugh, and we tease each other relentlessly, and we have an absolutely wonderful time while we're doing it.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm so happy that you have this person in your life.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know a little bit about some of the struggles that you've been through. A little bit.
Yeah, I've cried on your shoulder too many times.
Oh, we've cried on each other's shoulders, honey. Oh. All right, where are we going next?
I don't know. What's time? How are we looking on time, hon?
I didn't remember to start the timer, so I don't know.
Well,
when did
we're-
Ken hop on?
we're
Around...
at 25 minutes right now, I think.
Okay.
About 25 minutes. So
maybe just one more concluding question, perhaps.
yeah. And this is going to be the big one. Ken,
Right.
the most important lesson that you've learned in this lifetime so far?
The most important lesson?
Mm-hmm.
Trust in your heart and be yourself.
Ooh, that's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Because being somebody else for anybody will never, never get you there. When you make that connection with your own spark of divinity in your heart, and you give that back to life, you always, always, always will find yourself loving life and having love return in your life.
How do you think that happened, Ken? What do you think brought that about?
A lot of mistakes, a lot of meditation, a lot of looking inward, a lot of laughing at yourself and kind of reviewing the silly kinds of things that we pursue, and having the opportunity to not judge yourself too harshly, but to understand that, we're all bozos on this bus. We all need to laugh more and love more. And when you make a mistake, be forgiving and look at it and take it in and do what's right for you.
I keep hoping that this time on the planet with this pandemic is going to offer us so much healing as a world, as a planet, and remembering to love ourselves, remembering to love the people we're with, and not rush, and forget about those important connections. That's my hope.
It is so important. I mean, this is a challenge. This is a change in consciousness for the entire world because we are one. We are all human and we're all faced with our own mortality in so many ways and the ability to try and work together as human beings, regardless of political affiliations or all of the other confounding factors that are in our lives today. And really, when you just stop and think about what you need to make sense of a situation that is very scary and very threatening and is going to be costly to an awful lot of souls out there, it's going to give us endless opportunities for spiritual growth. And really, that's what it's all about. You know, that essentially is what this is all about. And I think many people having the time to be isolated and to reflect on their motives and to look inward and spend that time finding their heart and realizing that the importance of what you value in your life will never be about money. It will never be about anything material. It will be about those that you love, loving yourself, and connecting with people on a real level and being compassionate. You know, that's it.
That is beautiful. I love that. Nicely said. I don't think we could have wrapped up in a better way right there. 2 thumbs up. Oh, I love you. I adore you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. The other guy on this podcast, I love him. I adore him too.
Oh my God, he's so cute.
He is, isn't he?
Those glasses for me. You see those beautiful eyes, ears.
Part of his costume. There they are.
Never interview someone when they can see your eyes. Never. Never. Learned that a long time ago. Good to see you, Ken.
Pleasure, kids.
All right, I am stopping our live stream on YouTube right now.